Hello, Dr. Bonnie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. We're gonna be real. We're gonna be very real and authentic in this. So, no pressure this way.
Great.
I hope no pressure on your end as well. But
Not at all.
I do want to give you a proper introduction. I'm really excited for us to be sitting down this morning virtually together. And Dr. Bonnie Juul is actually one of the first guests that we're doing for this new webinar series called Unveiling Holistic Health Series. And we're going to be having everyday people who's had issues, and then professional expert and health and wellness practitioners, being Dr. Bonnie Juul is one of them. And Dr. Bonnie Juul, it's a pleasure. She is a natural healer, a chiropractor, a nutritionist, and a best-selling author and public speaker. But I don't want to take all of your thunder, but give a nice virtual round of applause for Dr. Bonnie Juul, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Elijah.
All right, Dr. Bonnie Juul, like I said, I don't want to steal your thunder. So tell us a little bit more about what you do, how'd you get into this, and where we at right now. Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I got into the natural health field. It was not on my plan for my life at all. I was going to be a teacher, and I was going to be a mom, and that was what my life was going to be. So what happened was I ended up getting sick when I was in my late 20s. And when I say sick, I mean, I just felt terrible. Didn't know what it was. I went to all the medical doctors who referred me to specialists, and I just wasn't getting answers. So I looked outside of regular medicine, and I'd already been kind of introduced to it from my mom, because she would give us herbal remedies and homeopathic remedies, which are alternative remedies, when I was growing up. But mainly we leaned on regular medicine. So I was in a terrible state. I was in lots of pain. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. And when the pain doctor referred me to a psychiatrist because there was nothing medically wrong with me, I knew that I needed to find my own answers. So I went to every natural health person I could possibly find. And I finally found somebody who does muscle testing, which is a natural biofeedback method of communicating with the body to find out what it needs. So it's like a direct communication with the body versus all the medical tests that are out there. And I was able to make extreme headway with that, to where I went from crying every night because of the pain and distress, and just like asking God, like, why is this happening to me? Help me find relief. I was trying to do everything that I knew to do, and I was following dietary recommendations that were considered healthy and still are considered healthy by many people, and following the medical route and trying to do the right thing, but I was still in incredible pain. And the irony of that is, when I look back, before I was figuring things out, I actually looked really good because I was exercising regularly. So I was slender. I looked good on the outside, but I was just miserable. Just a misery that I never want to go back to and would not wish on my worst enemy. So that's how I got into it, because I just started looking at alternatives. And so the person who helped me the most was a chiropractor who also does the muscle testing. And so I went to chiropractic school knowing that this is where I would end up, which I have ended up there. I ended up getting trained in many, many different types of muscle testing and created my own over the past few years. I've had 2 spontaneous healings, and that is a story for another day. However, I know that the framework for that is not within the realm of regular medicine for the most part, because there is a spiritual aspect to healing and surrendering all your suffering over to, I would say surrendering over to God. Others would say a divine presence. So that is part of what I bring into the muscle response testing that I do, which is called quantum response testing. I think we all know that there's lifestyle diseases, that everything is like, oh, it's a lifestyle disease, but there's not really a lot of, no, I'll say there's too much information on what contributes to the lifestyle information or diseases, because one person will say, well, you have to go vegan, or if you don't go vegan, then you're going to die. And another person will say, well, you need to eat all meat and have no vegetables or you'll die. So there's two ends of the spectrum and who's right. And I would say both people are right for the right person. So for one person, going 100% meat eating is going to be the best thing for them. Another person is going to be 100% vegetarian or vegan. And then there's the rest of us that are somewhere in between. And the question becomes, how do you figure out what's right for you? Like, how do you know? It's trial and error, right? Like, that's what most people do, is they're just like, well, I'll try this right now, and how do I feel? And then they go to the next thing. And meanwhile, the body is like, oh, wow, like I just got used to those nutrients, and now you're going to take that away. You're going to do this other thing. So my approach is much more gentle. I think it's much more balanced, as far as I don't ask people to go to extremes. I look with people at, well, what do you want? Because there's people like me who I'm super sensitive to all sorts of, I'm super sensitive to chemicals and additives. So I have the choice of, what do I want to eat at the family gathering? What's going to make me sick and what's going to make me feel better? But I understand what's going to make me feel sick. And then I can make that decision with the knowledge of how I might react, versus going into it blindly and what's going to make me feel sick. So what I really do with the quantum response testing is help people figure out, how does your body operate? What do you need? What do you specifically need? What diet do you need to have for your body and your health? So it gets very, very specific as far as what's going to help. And most of the people who end up at my door for quantum response testing, for the most part, they have tried everything, that just like I did, right? Like, it's the same path that I took. I've tried everything. There's nothing nothing's working. I'm having reactions to what's supposed to help, or it's just not helping. And then there's also those who they've done all the functional medicine testing. So they've already started to step outside of regular medicine and they're trying to do alternatives, but they're also noticing it's just not working 100%. And so what I do is I work with people to take all the knowledge that they've gained about their bodies over the months or years that they've been on the search for the best health for themselves. And we look at what's actually working, what's actually not working, but we think it's working, and help you figure out what's going to create the best health for you, so that you can be free to just enjoy your life, because that's what it's really about, is spending time with friends, family,
Right.
And there's such a distraction with pain and suffering that really takes away from those relationships and goals in life.
No, I agree. So you said a lot. I want to unpack some of the things that you said, right? And I want to talk a little bit more with the quantum response testing. So let me kind of rewind a little bit. Were you ever given a diagnosis as to what it was that you were experiencing?
Hypochondria.
Okay.
It was all in my head.
So today, do they have, and again, I'm not that well versed in diagnosis and things of that nature, but what is the common remedy for that today in relation to what it is that QRT can do?
Well, hypochondria is saying that you're not sick, it's all in your head. So there's really nothing that quantum response testing does for that, except for to look at that as a diagnosis that's not a real diagnosis, because it's not acknowledging what is really going on. I think for the level of pain that I was in, this was before fibromyalgia was recognized. So I may have been diagnosed as fibromyalgia. I don't know, but I can say that a lot of times with pretty much everything that people are sick with there, and it wouldn't have to be what I had. It's across the board. We live in a toxic world We have so many toxins in our food, it's in our water, it's in our air, it's everywhere. And then you have the added stress of what we're bombarded with on social media, and the world is falling apart, the sky is falling. There's a level of stress there as well. So what we do with quantum response testing is first we look at what is interfering with your health. And then we start taking that away, support your body in detoxifying. So our bodies are naturally getting toxins out of them, whether it's food dyes, whether it's the chemicals in the air because you live in a farming community, or the chemicals in the air because you live in the middle of a city and there's all the fumes. There's just toxins everywhere, and our bodies are equipped to handle toxins, but not naturally to the degree that we're exposed to today. There's just so, would you agree that there's probably a lot more poison in our environment than 100 years ago?
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you start to see these new diseases that comes out and we've never heard of it, you're like, well, where did it come from? You know? Okay, obviously no one's popped up with polio in the last 2 years, or the Black Plague or anything like that. But, you know, whenever you get new diseases, are they just formulated based on just a bunch of germs that just gathered together and came up with this new disease, or they made in the lab? So yeah, it's a lot more different diseases and toxins and things. And it's also, I'm curious because you said, you know, now, and I appreciate you giving me the correct definition for hypochondria. I should have known that. Would you say?
You don't know till you know.
Right. I'm not going front. I'm not one of the people that fake it till I make it. If I don't know, I'm going
right.
Like,
yeah.
I'm no shame in that. Would you say that depression would be a form of that some people could say it could be hypochondria?
I wouldn't say anything about any diagnosis, frankly. I don't dance in that world.
Okay, because
so I'm not.
Everybody.
I would say that depression is a concern, and it's something that can be taken care of, and it's the most I believe it's one of the top medications is antidepressants, which when you're not feeling good, you're going to be depressed. And so that is something that I do help people remove their need for the medications. And that's part of what I do, is help people figure out what they need to do to get off medications. And sometimes people don't want to do what needs to be done because it doesn't involve cleaning up your diet, sometimes making changes in your life. And but depression is definitely very much a concern. And everybody has different goals about what they want to do, but the important thing is to figure it out. Why are you having this? And a lot of times all those toxins that are bombarding our bodies are just it's exhausting for our bodies. And so we can reduce and eliminate our needs for really anything, any medications, because our bodies are just struggling to survive. And I would say that a lot of our very interesting diseases that are coming out, that when we remove the interferences, it's the stress in life, it's parasites, it's viruses, it's bacteria. A lot of times it's just straight up pollutants from our environment.
Well, I got a question for you. So what would you say if someone was doing everything right, they was eating healthy, they had a very healthy, balanced diet, right? And this is in the spirit of depression, but they were in a toxic relationship and they were facing economical challenges, but they was in shape, right? So, and the reason I'm asking that is because what would you say is the balance between mental stress versus, you know, eating healthy, the foods that you eat, that you take in? Which one plays a bigger part in that mental anguish that people deal with? Because now you got social media, then you got, you know, people's opinions, which these days is the court of public opinions will reign supreme, I guess. Cancel culture. I mean, with all these different factors, which one would you say has, you know, and I don't know if that's a correct answer. Maybe you could just say it just depends on that person. But what would you say that is?
For the most part, most people think that they're eating healthy, but they're not. So I have people come into the office and they say, I'm doing everything right. And so that goes back to what I said about you have somebody who needs 100% meat, somebody who else needs 100% vegan, and there's everything in between. So depression is linked to nutritional deficiencies. Definitely. It can be linked to when you eat, what you eat. So a lot of times people who come to my office will say, well, I'm eating a really healthy diet. And then I look at their diet and I'm like, no, you're not. There's a lot more chemicals and sugar, and corn syrup is a poison to the body. And so where I start with everybody is where I start with most people is let's look at what you're eating. So for antidepressants, you definitely have to look at what you're eating, because high sugar, too much corn syrup, too much sugar is going to contribute to that. Also, you're probably not getting enough protein in your body, especially if you're doing the vegan thing. But if you're vegan and you're not willing to look at animal protein, then it's something like, well, you're just going to need to stay on your antidepressants. Most of those are animal tested. So like it goes down to this deep rabbit hole of what could it be? And it all those things that you said will contribute to depression, especially if you have economic concerns. Meditation is really important, being able to put aside your concerns and silence the worried voice in your head. Silencing fear, giving your body a little bit of a break from that is really important. And that is part of what we work on with quantum response testing. I call it activating your heart set in that system, but it's to give your heart really a break from all the heartbreak and worry that we have in the world today, and that does affect your health. Everything, being imbalanced in your life is going to create stress. Going to a stressful job, having a stressful relationship, having an unloving relationship, not being able to set boundaries. Like there's so many things that can contribute to depression and anxiety. And the root of that, the one thing that I think is the simplest thing to control is what you put in your body. For most people, 60 to 70% of every health issue is on the foundation of something that's not right in your diet.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's where it goes back to start by looking at what you can most easily control, which is for most people, it's going to be making some basic changes to diet.
It's I would say that you made a good point with everything that's out on social media with people telling you, oh, you can eat this, you shouldn't eat this is actually bad for you. It's good that we are in the information age, but it's too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what to siphon between what's real, what's not real, what's best for my body might not be the best for someone else. I don't even know how do you even go and really figure what's the best thing for me? What should I actually be doing? Is it just fruits, right? But then you got some people who they want to get into the fruits, but now you go to the big box grocery stores and there's seedless fruit, and I'm not messing with that seedless fruit. That's not right. Yeah, I'm not. I would rather just go to the farmers markets or I find me something with seeds in it. But I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, also, when you are in a smaller rural area, like where I live at now, I live in rural America, and the only grocery stores around me is Walmart, Kroger, Schnucks. What about people who don't have as many options like you would if you was living in the city, right? When I used to live in the city, there was so many different places to go to for healthier options. But what do you say, aside from growing your garden, do you do here?
Well, there's a couple questions you had in there. One was, how do you determine which foods to eat? And that one would be using the muscle testing there's a couple things there. So one is using muscle testing, which I did create an online training for that, which can be found at learnqrt.com, because this is a tool that, and if you go to my YouTube channel at drbonniejuul.com, I talk a little bit about, I share what muscle testing is and how to do it, but it's a way that you can cut through the millions of bits of information that you're being bombarded with and fine tune your own diet. So you can start it. The training shows you how you can figure out, like, what are you supposed to be doing? Because there just is so much information out there. It's also great to work with a practitioner, especially if you're really sick. So if you're preventing illness or on the journey where your health is pretty good overall, then you can start testing yourself. If you're in a disease state or headed towards a disease state and have concerns about that, then I would say work with a practitioner who uses the muscle response testing, especially quantum response testing, because we do have this spiritual, that does bring in the spiritual aspect of the whole healing journey. But that is one thing that you can do, is you can do the muscle testing. That's something you can use real time in the grocery store. Like, what is best for me to eat? And then you can literally test it. It looks like this with self-testing. I don't know that I should have shared that right now because it might be too much information or something. But then there's another aspect, and it's my favorite functional medicine test that I do, which is I do a DNA test that looks at the DNA level. And what that means is it's actually looking at what your very foundation of what your body is made of, your DNA, and where are you likely to get a disease or not get a disease, and what can you do about it. So it's not just, oh, you're likely to get cancer. What it says is you're likely to get cancer because you have this gene, which is going to create this nutritional deficiency. So what you need to do is you need to always make sure that you're getting B2, for example, vitamin B2, or you need to make sure that you're always getting this kind of food. So it actually will give you a shopping list that says you need to have B2, and these are the foods that you need to make sure that you're eating. So that's something that once you get that test, it's never going to change because it's your DNA, right? Like if you get a blood test, that tells you what's happening right now in your blood. Or if you get hair analysis, it tells you what's happening right now in your hair, but it's not giving you the very foundation of what you need, which with quantum response testing, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at what is the very foundation of what you need to be healthy from now for the rest of your life versus putting out fires. I mean, their fires can be put out, but it's like, let's get underneath everything and find out how can we create this really strong foundation so that when you do get exposed to toxins, you're like, okay, I know I'm sensitive to toxins, which both the quantum response testing and the DNA test will reveal that information. And I know what to do about it. So it's not a mystery. It takes the mystery out so that you can have more certainty and peace of mind as you're going forward in life versus this whole chaotic, fearful state, which I'm very familiar with from my past.
So with
health issue.
QRT, are you the only doctor or one of the only few doctors who can actually do QRT on people?
There are other practitioners who are trained in it, and I have started a practitioner training. It's great that you bring that up. We hadn't talked about that. I did create a practitioner training that has been accredited. It's in the beta phase right now, so I have a couple people going through that to work out the kinks on that, but that is definitely opening up for more people to get trained on that at a practitioner level. So there's other people who have been trained in the basics of it in the Southern Illinois, St. Louis region who are able to use that at home with their family and with their kids, but on a more basic level, not as a practitioner.
No, that's great. Obviously, you're a big proponent for like holistic healing. You know, are you, obviously you're in the holistic healing industry. Would you say more on holistic health or traditional medicine? I mean, obviously, I think you're going to say holistic health, but
yeah.
But if so, why? Like, what would you say? Let's just do this: 3 pros, 3 cons for traditional medicine, and then the same for holistic.
Okay, 3 pros and 3 cons for each.
Yeah.
Okay, it might overlap a little bit. So, let's see. I think it's just going to overlap, because if it's not in one, it'll be in the other. So the pro for, so let's just do standard medicine, sometimes called allopathic medicine. It's your pharmaceutically driven medicine. So I would say a limitation of that sometimes is that you have specialists in different, who separate the different parts of the body and don't really look at the body as a whole. And so they'll be doing surgery on your gallbladder, not paying attention to how that affects your bowels or something. That's a really bad example. But you have your specialists of the different parts of the body who are treating the different part of the body and not looking at how that's going to affect the whole. So it's very much we can take parts out. Like, you don't need that. One example is you don't need your gallbladder. So that's one of the most frequent surgeries that they have out there, because they're like, oh, you don't need your gallbladder. But what we know in holistic health, which would be, sorry,
or your appendix. Everybody had the appendix taken out when I was little for some reason. I don't know, like,
right?
Like, why would God put it in your body if you don't? I don't know.
Yeah, like, why would you have it if you don't need it? And so, like, the gallbladder is one that breaks down fats, and so you have some breakdown of fat from the pancreas, which is another organ, but it doesn't break down the fat enough. And so when you don't have a gallbladder, you're more likely to be deficient in vitamin D, for example. And so, like, how many people need vitamin D supplement? So many people, but there's not really in the regular medicine looking at that connection of, oh, your gallbladders, a lot of gallbladders are out, and there's a lot of people needing vitamin D. So vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So anytime you have a fat soluble vitamin and not the appropriate amount of fat breakdown in your body, you just can't absorb it. So the thing about looking at more alternative health is we start looking at making those connections between, oh, you have a body organ missing. And so if somebody doesn't have a gallbladder, I will recommend to them that they take the bile replacement. They'll take a supplement that has a bile replacement on there. You'll see turnaround in health just on that very basic level. So allopathic, I would say, looks more at the pieces of the body, and holistic looks at the whole body. And allopathic
traditional, right?
Pardon? Allopathic. Yeah, I have a hard time with the word traditional for that, because some people use the word traditional for traditional healing, holistic healing. So
okay. I'm sorry, I meant to
I would say, no, that's okay. So that's kind of hard. Allopathic would be more like Western medicine, pharmaceutically based medicine. Okay. Let's just call it maybe pharmaceutically based medicine.
Yeah, for sure.
For the one. The other is that for when we're looking at lifestyle diseases. So with holistic, we're looking more at how can we have you be as healthy as possible and feel as good as possible. So we're looking at the function of the body. How well is it working so that it can work at its best no matter how old you are? Whereas medicine is looking at, they have their screening tests, and that's where we don't diagnose so much in holistic medicine, but in the pharmaceutically based medicine, we're looking at all those screenings, those prevention screenings, those are really just screening for disease. And so you'll see, for example, on blood tests where in holistic medicine, we're saying, oh, you're starting to get close to the end range of those tests, because tests will have a range on them. Blood tests will have a range. And so we're looking more at the middle, like, where are you sitting in here? Whereas in the pharmaceutically based medicine, they're like, okay, if you come out of this range, you're in disease. And what we're saying is, if you're within this range, you're not working. If you're starting to go to the ends here, you're going to hit disease pretty soon. So let's rein that in so that we can keep you in a healthy state. So the regular medicine or the mainstream medicine, that is looking for disease, and they don't have as many tools as far as how to get you healthy. So in regular medicine, they're going to recommend things that we would never recommend in holistic, because we're also looking at toxins. We're looking at toxins that make you not feel really great. They're looking at toxins at such a degree that it just throws you into an incredible disease state. And in holistic medicine, we know that just a little bit of toxins in there is going to start chipping away at your vitality and your health, and your body's going to start compensating. So we want to get that out so your organs can operate really well. So for regular medicine, for the pharmaceutically based medicine, for emergency medicine, there is no place I would rather go. I would never call myself. If I fell off a roof, I would not call me. I would be in the hospital. So I think that where you can get the most out of your health is holistic. I know that. If you want to really be vital and healthy, holistic is the way to go. If you want to be off medications, you need to be consulting holistic practitioners. If you don't care about being on medication, you're fine with it, then regular medicine is the way to go, 100%. If you just want, like, just give me a pill, just cut it out, I'm good. That's fine. Fine with that trajectory. Than regular medicine. As you get towards the end of life, when you are doing the pharmaceutical route, it's more medications, more organ failure, all that stuff. So what we're trying to do is have your vitality match how long you live, so that when you get to the end of your life. So I've known people who, you look at them, they're in their 90s and you're like, wow, you're operating really well. And then suddenly they leave us, right? Like suddenly they're dead. I'm like, that's the way I want to go. I want to be 100% in life. And then when my body's done, it's done, versus that slow decline with more medication, more disability, more needing help. My dad used to call it the organ recitals, because he would get together with all of his old friends and they talk about which organs were failing. So it was kind of a music joke, I guess. But I don't want to do that, right? Like, so when you look at the difference between the two, one is definitely more pharmaceutical based. You don't really have to change your diet. You don't have to take as much personal responsibility for your body when you're doing the medical route. That's just because the amount of personal responsibility you have to take when you're doing the holistic, you have to make lifestyle choices. You have to say no to things that typically you want to say yes to. And that's where it's a slow journey towards health, I would say. Cold turkey doesn't really work. It's just like continually learning and getting a little bit better and a little bit better, but also willing to do that. And sometimes that means not eating something that you thought was good, or it's about getting off the couch when you'd rather just be sitting there scrolling through your TikTok. So yeah, so I guess I didn't really do it like 3-3, but that's kind of like the benefits of each. And so if you want to get really healthy and have less medication, go the holistic route. If you don't care and you're fine with taking medications, then go the regular route. You can do both and be a little bit in between. For emergency medicine, definitely you want to go with regular medicine. And also if you're just for interventions, because there are so many pollutants out there, I'm not really big into people being so like digging their heels in for, I'm not taking medication. Well, sometimes you need to, because we are pretty fortunate to be at a time when you can, if you're doing the natural, trying to be as healthy as possible naturally, if you miss something, if you get something out of left field, there is the medical option for you to take some medications just to get yourself on track. So, but I've seen stage 4 diseases reversed all the time, just making the right choices. But you just have to know what those are. And frankly, I've never seen anybody get them from regular medicine.
No, I agree. Not the natural route. So in the spirit of holistic healing, right, you have things like what you're doing. QRT would be an example. You have that naturopathy, acupuncture, chiropractor. I'm curious because, obviously, Chummy's Organix, we have a CBD brand. What is your thoughts, or what would you say coming from the holistic healing realm? What would be your thoughts in general on CBD and like how would you um how would you define the misconceptions from your perspective versus the average person's who doesn't understand um misconceptions?
So there are things to look at for CBD. I'm a fan of hemp personally because that's the whole plant. So when I work with people, I really look at having the whole plant. And I think CBD is part of the spectrum between regular medicine and where I'm at in holistic health. So it would be somewhere along that spectrum. So it's still, it's that's just, I mean, there's so much with the CBD right now. And so I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. I think it is part of the spectrum of that support people in going towards holistic. I think it's still medicate, like in the taking care of symptoms for most people. It's taking care of the symptoms.
Yeah,
So
kind of like it's like an aid, but not. And I don't think that no one, I know I haven't, has says that, oh, this is going to replace your therapy, or this is going to replace what you're doing right now. More so an aid, more so an alternative. That's more. That's a little bit more. That's more natural than you taking.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, comes from a plant.
Yeah, so it kind of almost like a conduit to holistic health, or a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Why people are there, because I mean, there's a lot when you're ready to go to the holistic route. It's so much to learn, but it's just even more, it's even more to unlearn the things that we have been accustomed to. Leading up to it's like we transition to a different side of living, right? And it's so important to that. So
So you had also asked me another question about what to do when you're in a rural community and you don't have all the tools, like you don't have all the food sources available. So for that, on my YouTube channel, I do have goes into how can you pick the healthiest choices for you. And basically you pick, if the closer it is to what the farmer made, the better it is. If you can get organic, get organic. If you can't, get grass-fed for meats. That will help with that. So I didn't want to let that go. What?
Cage-free, does that mean anything? Don't sound like it, but I don't know.
Sort of, but not really. Pasture raised means the little chickens were out in the pasture, and cage-free sometimes means they just open the door, but they're still shoved in there. So it's so tricky. It's so much marketing. But back to the CBD, I think there's different options out there. My concern is that a lot of people do use it as a crutch for not needing to do some of the like dietary changes and things like that. They can use herbs as a crutch. So so any of the stronger natural items can be used that way. I think it's also important to read labels, make sure there's not too much sugar, anything too much sugar or corn syrup. Those kinds of things need to be looked out for as far as inflammation goes. So read your labels to just make sure what you're putting in your body. But again, there's a spectrum, because if you're drinking sodas and like Coca-Cola and stuff like that, then you don't have to worry so much about what's in your CBD, because it's not a big change. Does that make sense? Like it's part of the gradual step where you'd want to get where you're not consuming any of those items that are poisonous.
Like only thing that probably will have sugar or something would maybe just be like the edibles piece, but that's one segment of the CBD realm.
Oh, like the gummies?
Edible gummies. But you have like the tincture, the oils, the topicals, the soft gels, and things of that nature. But No, I just
Yeah. So if you're like on the start of it, then it's like, don't worry about like what's in the gummy so much, and then transition into, yeah,
yeah,
what's,
I really think that just like what we're doing right now, I think it's education, and I think that
mm-hmm.
we do have a responsibility and the obligation uh, to educate people where it's easily digestible for the average person, so they can make the best decision for them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because again, it's so much information out there that a lot of people don't really know where to go. And you got one person who's saying all this stuff. We need people like yourself and others who are in that space to really educate and show us, there are alternatives, and this is what it is.
Yeah.
And, I think that what you're doing with QRT is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's much needed. You've also you have a trilogy, a Quantum Health Secrets, 3 books that you've written. Can you talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for asking. So Vim and Vigor, Escape the Medical Merry-Go-Round, Reclaim Your Health and Live a Long and Healthy Life. That's the whole title. So that one breaks down how to start looking at making those lifestyle changes from the lifestyle habits that create disease, and start shifting those towards the ones that create freedom from disease and health. And it's all laid out there for you. It's everything that I know. And the intention is not for you to go cold turkey and make drastic changes, because those never last. I mean, how many times have all of us had New Year's resolutions, and they just you don't keep to them. It's like baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step, more knowledge, make those changes that are doable, that you can keep. So I lay them all out for you in Vim and Vigor. There's little exercises you can do in there. And then if you feel like you want a practitioner, on the very last chapter, it's like what to look for in a practitioner so that you can make the best choice for you. That's that book. The book Intuition, Faith, and Freedom goes into more detail and instruction about quantum response testing and the muscle testing process and how that works. It gives guidance in there so you can start figuring out how to do that at home. There's also visualization to manifestation. So it is the visualization techniques that I used and still use in order to reclaim my health. You can do it for anything. If you are ruminating all the time on your disease and how to manage your disease, you're focusing on the disease versus focusing on what would it be like if I were healthy? What would it be like if I were free of this disease? So it walks you through the steps that I use for that. And it's been very useful.
Part of that hypochondria we was talking about a little bit, right? A little bit, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I guess I kind of use that because I didn't consider myself a hypochondriac. It came out of left field. It's all in your head. Like your disease, you're not actually experiencing pain. It's in your head. Like you're not actually in pain. And so for me, I was like, no, there's something wrong with me. And then I did figure out what it was. So I was overloaded with toxin. I had a gene mutation. It's called the MTHFR gene mutation. And that is a gene mutation which will show up in that DNA test that we offer. And that gene mutation of the MTHFR, so we're the ones who are more likely to have vaccine reaction. So I was vaccine injured over 20 years ago. And so it's been very interesting and actually quite devastating as I was watching all the reactions from just what's been happening the past few years. So any concern about vaccine sensitivity, that's a really great thing to know about because it does mean that you're going to be sensitive to, I'm sensitive to medications. That's just the way my genes are. And so the more pure I can stay, the better. And that's true for most people with MTHFR gene mutation. Didn't mean to go off on that little tangent right there, but there you go.
Look,
Um,
we can't have a natural health and wellness conversation without, ruffling a little bit of feathers, but not necessarily ruffling feathers, but just bringing that up because it's a part of what's going on
yeah,
right now. So I mean,
yeah,
you definitely, tiptoe around that.
yeah. And I won't say all that, but a lot of that can be fixed for people. So a lot of the toxicity and sensitivity can be fixed.
Mm.
And yeah, there's more I can say about that, but I think this is going on YouTube, right? So I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
So they don't take it down.
So, Dr. Bonnie Juul, we can find you in St. Louis and Carbondale. Can you tell us where we can find you at? If we want to actually go
Yes.
and set an appointment.
Sure. Your first step would be to go to the website, naturalhealthwins.com, because natural health does win. So you can go there and fill out a request for information. And I or one of my staff will get back to you and let you know how to apply for coming in for a visit. Because what we do is very outside the box of regular medicine. Part of the intake process is to have you see what we do and educate you in the process because it is very different. Most people really love it. And I just want to make sure that before scheduling an appointment and wasting your time coming in for an appointment that you know exactly what you're up for. So it's a beautiful process. I think it's very nurturing and caring, and it also gets great results.
Awesome. And you're in Carbondale too as well, right? Or are you mostly?
Yeah. So that one website, you can let us know, are you interested in the Carbondale practice or the St. Louis practice? Or we do remote visits as well.
Okay. So they can find you on YouTube at Dr. Bonnie Juul, Juul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
You can go to Natural Health Wins.
Yep.
And then you have your book trilogy on Amazon, Vim and Vigor,
Mm-hmm.
Visualization to Manifestation, and Intuition to Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything?
And then we have learnqrt.com. And that one is if you want to learn how to muscle test for yourself in a way that is really effective, gets to the heart of what's going on. That's a great place to start.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Bonnie Juul, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I know that you're very busy healing lives and spreading the knowledge in the holistic health and wellness realm. I'm on my journey. I love what you're doing. I think it's extremely important. I'm in the process of unlearning some things. I got to get off of my babies. I got a 1-year-old and I got one on the way, and so I need to be around for a long time. Like yourself, I want to be in my 80s, still being able to to touch my toes and squat down without having to grab onto ladders and ropes just to kind of get back.
Right.
Yeah. Bring back up like, oh, what are we doing? So yes, like health and vitality is something that I think that a lot of people really don't value until they get to that age where they're like, oh, I wish I would have. Right.
I think a lot of people are also seeing it with their grandparents and sometimes their parents where they're like, I don't want this to be me. And so making a different choice.
Yeah, no, seriously. I think that a lot of people who are, and again, not to go off on the rails, but a lot of people who are opting for the, I don't need nobody but me and my money. I think that when they get old and they're like, oh, snap, I didn't have any kids. I don't really have a family. I got my money though. And then, you take a slip or fall in the shower and there's no one to help. Yeah, I think you're going to probably need that too. So the best thing to do, if that's the life you want to live, great. But you just got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Yeah,
they're talking about lifespan and health span are the phrases I've heard. You want your health span to match your lifespan. And I think it's like alone or not alone. It's like, I know when I've looked at people my age who are taking care of their parents. Like, we've never lived in a time where people's lives have been extended for so long with so much disability and so much need for care from family members. There's so many women my age and a little bit older who are caring for elderly parents, and it is exhausting. And of course, we love our parents, so we're going to do it. And it's like, I don't want to live that way. When I get older, I want to be really strong and healthy until I'm ready to just kick up my toes. So, yeah. So that's something as well, is that thought of being a burden on your kids. That's real too.
You want to think about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's crazy. So if anyone out here, if you want to live older and healthy, you should definitely get in tune with Dr. Bonnie Juul.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Elijah. I love what you're doing. It's great that you're getting the word out about this.
Oh yeah,
Making changes in the world.
just trying to be a blessing out here. Just trying to be a blessing.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it again, Dr. Bonnie Juul, and thank you for being the first guest on Unveiling Holistic Health Series.
It is such my pleasure.
Yes. I'm Elijah Hamilton with Chummy's Organics. You can find us at chummysorganics.com. That's CHUMMYSORGANIX.com. And we will be in touch. Thanks again, Dr. Bonnie.
Bye.
All right, have a good one. Take care.
You too.